The dating world is a precarious place on its best days. Once you add in any sort of disability, you enter another level of possible peril. But don't fret, with today's modern tech, it's even easier to find romance regardless of any perceived physical limitations. Hi, I'm Shonna Counter, an author, speaker, entertainer, and most importantly, an advocate. I advocate for both the disability world and for the freedom of sex positivity. The majority of the world deals with anxiety around sex and dating, and I look to help them on their journey. But there's this bizarre misconception that disabled people are exempt from this concern because, well, disabled people don't have sex, of course. Apparently, we're all asexual. Wrong. Wrong on so many levels. Dating, romance, marriage, sex, and raising children are not relegated to only the able-bodied population. Yes, it's true with most things in life. It's more complicated when you have to navigate your limitations. But you've all managed to design your life around your restrictions, so naturally, dating, sex, or marriage is no different. I'll start the way I always start when talking about dating with any audience. Do your inventory. Know thyself. The majority of the world has self-doubt. For some, this is their own form of disability. They have crippling insecurity. Others may be blessed with an abundance of confidence. Either way, where we start looking for a mate is the same. I want to be clear that I'm a huge proponent of online dating. It is a double-edged sword. On the upside, you're able to clearly present yourself and assess the compatibility of others. And on the downside, there's an overwhelming tsunami of choices. It's a double-edged sword. The clearer you can be about yourself and the better you understand what you're looking for, the easier it'll be to filter out all the noise of the people who are not a match. But how do I even start, you may say? You start with you, of course. Do your inventory. What are you bringing to the table? What's great about you? You need to go into this knowing that you are the prize and your partner would be lucky to have you. It's not so easy, you say. But what about my disability, you say? But what about just stop? You know what's great about you. You know why your friends are friends with you. You know what value you bring to your job or your family or your community. You know if you're extra smart or extra funny or extra charismatic or extra empathetic. You know if you have an excellent memory, a compassionate heart, or a wicked sense of humor. So first things first, go online and create an account. Start writing your profile. I joke, but not really, that your profile is your marketing material. You are the product, and you're looking for a buyer. You should be telling them why they need you in their life. You should also have excellent photos that show your true beauty, your smile, the light in your eyes, you doing things that you love and make you happy, and a photo that includes your adaptive equipment if you have any. As an example, I both walk and roll, so I include a picture of both. Next, simply analyze what you would be contributing to a partner and start describing that. You should also be pretty clear about what you're looking for in a partner. Well, how or when do I mention my disability, you will say? Let me give you an example. Because I have a progressive disorder, I only got my wheelchair 4 years ago, but my limitations have obviously always been there. Let's just say before my chair, I was passing because no one could see my disability. And when to disclose then was a lot more confusing. I still mentioned it at some point during the date. Obviously, I downplayed it, saying, oh, I have a condition that makes me weaker than most people. I can't do a lot of physical activities. I just mildly downplayed it. I was being authentic because I simply designed my life to avoid the things I couldn't do. So it was no big deal to me. They took my cue and didn't seem to make it a big deal either. That is a simple example of how and when I used to disclose about my disability back then when I passed as able-bodied. Today, the way I disclose and discuss is completely different. Obviously, this isn't always a simple situation for each person. Earlier, I alluded to the fact that we have more hurdles to navigate. But just like crippling insecurity, the single largest hurdle to overcome is your own fears. Work on that. A lot. rummage around inside yourself and get a good long look. Then, and only then, can you effectively tackle anyone else's misconceptions. How you feel about your disability and subsequent value is often how other people will feel. If you don't know your greatness, how can anyone else know it? Yes, society as a whole has way too many misconceptions regarding disabilities. Yes, you will have to educate people while you're on a date. But the first thing you need to do is let's set up a profile and then filter out any mismatches. Then let's exchange a few emails, see how many it takes to feel comfortable. And then maybe it's time to meet. You should probably identify places to meet that work with your limitations. Many restaurants are ADA accessible to some degree. Identify places that you're comfortable in. Aisles that are wide enough, tables that are the right height, parking that's adequate, whatever puts you in your best light. If it allows you to shine and it does not feed into this misconception, then that's everything you need to focus on. It's really not a big deal. You've figured out ways to make your life work as smooth as possible. So perhaps you don't go on your first date to a place you've never been. You know, the place where you didn't know the front door had a step and that the handicap entrance is around the side, or that the booths are too crowded and the table section is in the back, and you get my drift. Maybe you don't go there on your first date. Yep, these are all facts of your life. Yes, it's an inconvenience, but it's just as likely you'll go to your favorite place where you've already ironed out any of these possible kinks. Kinks. Speaking of kinks, don't be afraid to explore the world of non-traditional dating or the non-vanilla stuff, because we've already had to be creative problem solvers. We might already be predisposed and more open-minded to alternative sexual options. I've got a whole series of videos that I'm about to record on this very topic. Shameless plug. If you're curious, follow my channel. But how do I talk about my disability, you may ask? It really depends on your personality. Are you funny? Is it easier to joke about it? Are you a logical straight shooter? As I said, I post a full body picture of me both walking and sitting in my chair because that accurately depicts what my day-to-day life looks like. I list my occupation as disability advocate. I talk about my passions for my disenfranchised community and educating society. My profile literally says, my mate has to be happy lending an arm, walking slowly, or comfy with my wheelchair when I'm going out of the house. Note, I did not say accepting of my wheelchair or okay with my wheelchair. I am very clear, and I do not want anyone to think that this is some flaw that they have to be willing to overlook. No, they have to be comfortable. Honestly, maybe I should change it to embrace my wheelchair, but then some ding-dong will literally think I mean hug. Just simply be clear about the message you're sending, because it will subliminally lay the groundwork for how they receive you. If you think, oh, they're going to have to overlook this flaw, then they're going to pick up on that. When I do meet, I just start talking like a regular old date. I don't bring it up because it isn't an active part of my brain. At some point, we'll talk about what I do for a living. I'll talk about disability in general, or that idiot who is illegally parked in the only handicap spot in the restaurant right now. It isn't until the end of the date, or if they awkwardly ask, that I think to say, oh, I'm an open book. If you have any questions about my disability, please ask. I also ease their discomfort and add, don't worry about using the right language. I'll help you if you get stuck. I find it helps them feel more comfortable. Most of the time, I get, how did you come to be in the chair, or some variation of that. And I give them, maybe the 2-minute explanation. Sometimes the bold among the crowd will ask how it impacts my sex life. That's a reasonable question. That it's reasonable that they're curious about what it would look like to date me. Since my entire channel is about this topic, I'm obviously comfortable openly discussing this. You may not be. You might say, well, it's easy to figure out later, or we can discuss that if we start to get close to that point. I mean, you could be flirty and say, oh, I'll have to show you sometime. It really does depend on your personality, your comfort, and the other person's level of curiosity. There are no set rules. The whole point is, when you're confident about your value, you project confidence. In one of my videos, I talk about how confidence is one of the sexiest attractions for anyone, which is why I always tell people, able-bodied or not, that romance, dating, and sex starts with how you feel about you. You need to realize you are not a burden. You need to know that no one is a hero for being with you. You need to recognize if you're in an unhealthy relationship out of a fear that no one else will want you, and then get out. You need to know how you supplement your partner's life. You also need to understand that you have standards and that you may be dumping them because they're an emotional burden on you. I mean, I'm in the process of evaluating if I'm going to break up because he takes more than he gives emotionally. It really is a balancing act for everyone in every area of their life. Whatever you may be lacking in body, you make up for in so many more important ways. Thank you for letting me talk about dating, confidence, and disability. If you want to hear more about the sexy stuff or the upcoming kinky stuff, please check out my content. Thanks again, and now I'd love to answer any questions you might have.